August Schwerkolt was a pioneer settler in the Mitcham area, and this presentation provides details of the 3 houses that were built on the property between 1864 and 1905. August arrived in Australia from Germany with his new wife Paulina in December 1849 and joined a small group of German settlers living in Separation Street, Northcote. In order to own property in the colony of Victoria, he took the oath of naturalisation in February 1853 and subsequently purchased land and built a house at 125 Separation Street. This was where 8 of his 9 children were born. However, only 5 survived infancy. He retained this property and it was inherited by his daughter Mary, aged 22. On the 14th of December 1861, August Schwerkolt purchased a parcel of 63 acres of land in Mitcham, and by 1882, August had acquired an additional 25 acres of land. The last child from his marriage with Paulina, Carl Benno, was born on the Mitcham property in May 1865. While the house was being built, August regularly travelled between his 2 properties on foot. The first house he built on the property was a 6-roomed stone house that was completed in May 1864. It was located not far from where the museum stands today and was about 6 by 12 metres in area and was built from materials that were available on the site. The siltstone and sandstone for the house was quarried from the banks of the creek and were mortared together with mud, clay and pebbles, also sourced from the creek. The timber for the rafters, veranda posts, windows and doors were obtained from the trees felled to clear the land for farming. There is only one photo that shows the remains of the first stone house. This photo of Myra Schwerkolt was taken in 1953 and shows the storage shed built inside the remains of the house walls. Paulina died in 1884 and August, at the age of 62, remarried in January 1885 to Wilhelmina Oppel, who was a 40-year-old widow. He built a 3-roomed cottage, now known as Schwerkolt Cottage, in the style found in northern Germany. August was able to use larger stones in constructing the cottage as he had the assistance of his adult sons. Corrugated iron was used for the roof in order to collect rainwater. The cottage has a combined kitchen and parlour and 2 bedrooms with an outdoor veranda connecting them. The fireplace was made from stone, clay and mud and used for cooking and heating. There are no interior doors and the original earthen floor was replaced with tiles in 1898. The veranda was paved with handmade bricks and the water supply was from 2 large shipping tanks plus an adjacent well. August and Wilhelmina had 3 children, twins Johann, John, and Bertha, in 1885. Tragically, Bertha died aged 2 weeks. In January 1887, August died of pneumonia just 4 months before his daughter, Mary, was born. His son Louis inherited the Mitcham property, except for the 5.5 acres surrounding the Schwerkolt cottage. Following August's death, Wilhelmina added a weatherboard kitchen to the cottage and her family continued to live there until 1900, when she took her family to America to be with her brother. The cottage was then rented out to tenants until it was purchased by the city of Nunawading in 1964. After August built the cottage, his son Louis and his wife Francesca, always known as Sissy, lived in the 6-roomed house and raised their family of 4 children until the house was destroyed in the 1905 bushfires. On the 11th of February 1905, Mitcham was impacted by the Black Saturday fires, which engulfed the Schwerkolt farm and the surrounding area. Louis, his wife and 4 children, who ranged in age from 14 to 2 years, were at home and unsuccessfully tried to fight the fire. Everything was destroyed and they were left with only the clothes they wore. The flames spread to Schwerkolt Cottage, where the tenant, Mr. Kemp, lived with his family, and with the help of the Schwerkolts, they were able to save some of their belongings. The 6-roomed house was completely destroyed. The cottage also suffered extensive damage, with 3 stone rooms and a weatherboard room at each end. Once the roof of the cottage caught fire, the weatherboard rooms were destroyed. The 3 stone rooms remained but were badly damaged. The damage caused by the 1905 bushfires was repaired and the adze trimmed timbers of the doors and windows were replaced by new sawn timber fittings. The cottage continued to be rented and the tenant in 1914 was the Pye family, who had an excellent garden. The large Schwerkolt house was insured for £200 and this was used to build a 5-roomed weatherboard farmhouse. Louis and his family lived in this house until he died in 1935 when his son Ern inherited the property. Ern married Myra in 1936 and in 1939 they added an extension to the north side of the house, which was used as a kitchen, dining and utility area. During the renovations they lived in Schwerkolt Cottage. The original smokehouse can be clearly seen in both of these photos. The cottage continued to be rented to many appreciative tenants. One of these was Mike Bates, who is pictured here in his wonderful vegetable garden in 1956. He and his wife lived there until 1959, when they died within weeks of each other. The cottage was then rented to a family with 11 children, and it fell into disrepair, and the tenants eventually failed to pay the rent. The roof of August's wine cellar had collapsed, and the various additions made to the cottage over the years had become dilapidated as a result of neglect. On the 7th of November 1960, the Housing Commission of Victoria issued a demolition order on the cottage, citing it dangerous and unfit for habitation due to the lack of toilet and washing facilities. Following considerable community interest and recognising the great potential of the property, the Nunawading Council gained a stay in proceedings in order to acquire and restore the cottage as a fine example of an early Victorian settler family. In March 1964, the council purchased the property, and in June 1964, the cottage was awarded a National Trust Category C registration, notable and worthy of preservation. Restoration was completed in 1965. With Schwerkolt Cottage restored and the barn and garden completed, the property was officially opened to the public on the 17th of October 1965 by the then Governor of Victoria, Sir Rowan Dellicombe. It was a grand affair with more than 300 guests in attendance, including descendants of the Schwerkolt family. Schwerkolt Cottage today is a treasured community asset that is managed by the Whitehorse Historical Society and maintained by the Whitehorse City Council. The complex is open on Saturday, Sunday and public holidays between 2 p.m. and 5 p.m, and admission is free. The map on the left was drawn by Rosalie Schwerkolt Whalen, and it illustrates the position of the 3 houses in relation to the museum complex. The map on the right was drawn by Arthur Schwerkolt, who lived on the property from 1936 and provides a detailed depiction of the layout of the property. By 1959, the rest of the Schwerkolt land had become too valuable for farming and was needed for housing. It was sold to developers and, in the process, the timber farmhouse and the remains of the original stone house were demolished. The only reminder is a palm tree that was located at the rear of the timber farmhouse, pictured here. Photographs used in this presentation are from the collection of the Whitehorse Historical Society, and the historical information regarding the houses was provided by Rosalie Schwerkolt Whalen, who is the great-granddaughter of August Schwerkolt. Additional information was sourced from the Whitehorse Historical Society publication, Schwerkolt Cottage and Museum, The Legacy of Johann August Schwerkolt, Pioneer, written by Ted Arrowsmith. This publication is available for purchase from the museum or from the Society.